Hello. I'm Fiona Curie from Style Liberation and the creator of the Facebook group 35 Plus Where to Shop. We help women 35 plus to create a wardrobe full of outfits that they absolutely love wearing without necessarily having to start from scratch. So this is a segment that we aim to do monthly, and it's called Life and Style. And what we want to do is share with you some of the wonderful members of our Style Liberation community and share some of the stuff that they work on and they help other women with that's really important to us as women 35 plus. And I have the absolute privilege of sharing with you today the amazing Angela Counsel. Now, she's going to help us discover how knowing your body shape, which is something that we talk a lot about, can help you reduce menopause symptoms. So Angela is a naturopath and also menopause coach, and she loves to guide women to embrace the changes that happen in their bodies as we go through the menopause transition. So I'd love to introduce Angela now. Let me just bring her on. Hi, Angela. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, Fiona. Thanks for having me.
I can see that we've already got some people watching live. So if you are live, please just pop in the comments and say hello. We're really excited to have you here joining us. And if you're not live with us, I know that there'll be lots of people who will tune in later to hear more of the absolute genius that you are going to share with us today, Angela, because I know
let's hope.
It's a really hot topic for our gorgeous women. Absolutely. I can see Sharon's here. Hi, Sharon. Lovely to have you here. So before we dive into the stuff that everyone wants to know about, you are one of our gorgeous Style Liberation community members and one of our super stylers. So would you like to share with us what your style profile is? So your style personality, your color palette, and also what your body shape is.
Okay, so body shape. I'm a triangle. Style personality. Oh, as casual as they come. So relaxed.
Beautiful, relaxed, natural, Angela.
Relaxed, natural. There's actually a bit of classic in there as well. And my colors, which I've just had redone, are cool soft. Is that correct?
Cool light.
Cool light.
I can also say you are gorgeously wearing them today, and in a really.
I had to get my colours out and go, what have I got? Because as I said, I have Fiona's just redone my colours, and they have changed. So from when I had them done years ago, and so there's very little in my wardrobe that actually is the right colour. So I'm running through going, is this right? I go, okay, yeah, I've got the right colours.
You know, it would have been fine if you didn't, because I know that you're in that transition phase.
I couldn't turn up here in the wrong colours, because if I had turned up in black, I would have been in trouble.
Now you're making people think that I'm going to be really harsh about that.
No,
but yes, maybe that is true. So, Angela, how has knowing your style profile helped in terms of your wardrobe and also feeling at ease in what you wear?
Well, back in my corporate days, when I used to wear like really tight fitting clothes, I didn't feel comfortable in them. So once I left corporate and I could be a little bit more relaxed, then I kind of went the other way and I lived in tracky dacks for a while. So, but knowing that I am actually relaxed, natural, that's actually okay, because it means that I don't have to be someone that I'm not. And this is a lot of the work that I do. It's like I could just be me. And yes, sometimes I'm a little bit slack, a little bit too casual, but that's okay. I don't go out the house like that. Or, well, actually, sometimes I do. You know, Uggies have been known to go out. Actually, pajamas have been known to go out as well. And the hoodie, when I pick my daughter up from work at midnight, in winter, I'm always wearing an hoodie, but I don't get out of the car. So, you know.
I think you're allowed to do that. I think I'd be quite tempted to do that as well if I was picking up someone in midnight, especially here in Canberra, so in the middle of winter.
Just knowing that my style is relaxed, it really fits who I am, because I am very relaxed. I've been through the times when I was stressed and uptight, and it wasn't good for me. Now my whole personality is relaxed, and it just makes it so much easier to just be me.
Yeah, and that's what we love about the whole thing about style personality is that you are not having to be someone that you're not. And often when we hit the shops with friends or family, or even with sales assistants, sometimes we feel like they're trying to make us someone we're not. And then that's why we often come home really frustrated and things in our wardrobe that we don't wear because they're not us. And so no matter your style personality, embrace it. If you're someone who likes to do the more relaxed, that's awesome. If you're someone who, likes hair makeup done all the time, that's awesome too. It's about embracing exactly who you are in terms of that.
Hair and makeup, not my thing either. Then that's the other thing. When I used to work in corporate, I used to wear makeup every single day, and my hair was already done. I don't color my hair anymore, but that's actually what's changed my colors, because I used to always have colored hair, and now I'm natural with all the sprinkles, and I've actually changed my colors. And apparently you were quite surprised at what my colors came up when it was redone based on my natural hair color.
Yeah, it was definitely a change to what we thought. We still in the same ballpark, but yeah, slightly different than what we expected, which is always nice to have a good surprise. So, Angela, we know why people are tuning in today, and I can see Janet's here as well. Lovely
Janet,
to see you.
she's one of my women.
Oh, awesome. So really what we're wanting to understand is this menopause, but also how, by knowing what our body shape is, how that impacts on our menopause journey and how we can work with it to actually reduce some of the common symptoms that we have in terms of that. So tell me a little bit more about that, Angela.
Okay. Do we want to start with what menopause is? Because most people don't really, it's actually surprising that many women don't really know. I mean, they know that their periods stop. But most women don't realize that menopause is a transition. It's not a disease. It's not a thing that happens. It's a transition. So it's a time whereby your hormones are shifting, and they generally start shifting late 30s, early 40s. And most women don't realize that. So the transition itself can go for 10 to 12 years. Now, that doesn't mean you have to be in agony for 10 to 12 years, but that's how long it takes, because the body is now changing. So rather than the body, it's been producing its hormones from its ovaries, but as we run out of egg supply, the body has to do a little bit of a switch, because the ovaries no longer becomes the primary place where hormones are produced. So then what the body does, and actually the brain controls a lot of this, it starts to get the adrenal glands to pick up the production of the hormones. And the less eggs we have, the less our ovaries do the work, and the more our adrenal glands do the work. So this is why it's a transition, and it can take some time. And hormones can be very, very erratic at this time of life. They can go up and down, which is why hormone tests are next to useless when it comes to working out where you are and what's going on. Because one day they can be up, and the next day they can be down, and so can your moods, and so can your symptoms. So everything changes. But so long as, what I want women to know is it is a transition, and there are things we can do. And, in the past, I have always said, well, we've just got to manage our stress. We've got to eat well. We've got to exercise. And that's still the key. I still say that. But now what I learned was understanding what's going on with your genes actually helps you, give you the clue as to what to do. Now, when I first started moving through this time of life, and particularly started to put on weight, it's a big one for women. In the past, when I wanted to lose weight, I would just do a keto diet. I would drop the weight. That was it. As I was coming through this transition, I found that, number one, sticking to a keto diet was so hard. I just craved carbs, and that's actually an issue with hormones, something going with hormones. And I just couldn't stick to a keto diet, and it didn't work. The weight just was sticking. And so I was kind of searching for answers. And for a long time, I didn't talk about weight. And to have a menopause coach that doesn't talk about weight is kind of like, yeah, well, what are you doing? Because everyone wants to know about weight. But I hadn't found the solution for me. So I kept looking. And then I started to, I'd heard about something known as genetic-based personalized health a few years ago. And I went, I'm going to look into that a little bit more. And I went back and I tapped back into it. And once I realized what it was all about and realized that the body shape tells us a lot, then I went, okay, I'm going to try this. And I tried it. And not only did I've lost 24 kilos and kept it off, body aches and pain, which was one of my major symptoms, that disappeared. I didn't have many hot flushes, but that disappeared. Everything changed because understanding this, just like with your style personality, it helped me understand who I was, and who I was okay.
Yeah.
Because it's really interesting when you gave me the PDF about the colors, and you kind of give a description of the personality that goes with the colors, all of those words in there, a lot of them, I went, oh, yeah, that's exactly the same as what's in my profile for what I do. And actually the word diplomat came up. And that's actually the health type that I am. I'm a diplomat. So
how funny is that? I never knew there'd be some sort of correlation between, health, analysis and diagnosis in terms of
I know. I
style
didn't
personality.
either. Particularly and it's just amazing. The more I look at this, because it is based on your genes. So if you want to pop up the first slide that I've done. So we've all got a set of genes. So we're born with a set of genes, and that's a mix of our parents, our mother and our father comes together, creates your genes. And then on top of your genes, we have something which is called epigenetics. Now, that might sound a little bit scientific, but basically what that means is these are the factors, and these are lifestyle, environmental, diet factors that influence your genes. Because just because you have a set of genes doesn't mean that gene is expressed. So a lot of us have got genes that are never, ever expressed. So by that, it means they're never turned on. But all these different factors can turn them on. And with our genes, basically, we know that it kind of defines whether or not we're tall, we're short, big boned, small boned. It also determines where we tend to put fat on, whether or not we tend to put it around the bust, the hips, the tummy, the legs. So that's all driven by our genes, but then our epigenetics is also playing a role. Because if we turn on the gene for fat storage because of the food that we're eating, or whether we're exercising or not, we're going to store more fat. But you can have twins who've got the exact same genetic profile, exactly the same DNA, but one can be doing a lot of exercise, eating really well, and the other one isn't. They have the same genes, but their bodies will be different because they're doing different things to their body. So their epigenetics is different. So is this making sense? So this is what we tap into. And it does actually, because it is to do with our genes, it does actually influence our personality. Now, part of our personality is learned. So this comes back to, is it nature versus nurture? So we start at nature. So we start with our genes, but then it's all the influences that create who we are. And we are then able to define, and we come up with 6 different health types, and that's what you can see on the screen. And, at one end, we've got a really thin, tall person. And on the other end, we've got a bigger, chunkier person. So each one of these women we give them different names, but they've got different body types. So what they require is different. So the food each of them needs to eat is different. The type of exercise each needs to do is different. When they need to sleep is different. And when we can actually tap into that, what we do is we reduce stress on the body. If we're eating the right foods for our body, if we're moving the way our body's meant to, if we're sleeping when we're meant to, we reduce stress. And this is really important, because I told you before that when hormones start to shift and we are no longer producing the hormones from our ovaries, it comes from our adrenal glands. And our adrenal glands is what controls our stress hormones. And if we are highly, highly stressed, we only have limited resources within the body will always make stress hormones over reproductive hormones, because stress hormones keep us alive. Okay. Reproductive hormones now, particularly at this time of life, are not actually required for immediate day-to-day life. We do require them for other body functions, but it's not to keep us alive. So this is why it's really important. We look at how can we bring down stress, and we can bring that down stress by understanding our different body type or our health type.
I find it just so fascinating, just in terms of even looking at, sleep, like different sleep patterns. And I guess, I do realize everyone's different in terms of, their sleep habits and things like that. But so basically what you're saying is there are reasons why we might be naturally, maybe night people, morning people, or a stock standard 8 hours, or someone else who,
totally. Because we've always, and this, for me, when I learned this and a lot of the nutrition stuff, I had to relearn so much, because what I'd been taught was a general thing and it didn't work for everybody. So we get told you need 8 hours sleep a night. Now, that's in general, that's correct. But some people need more and some people need less. Now, I used to teach all of my clients, be in bed by 9 o'clock, and then you'll be able to get up, at 5 in the morning. Best thing, get up, get moving first thing in the morning. That's what I did. I did that for years. I used to get up, do 5 o'clock, go and do boot camp first thing in the morning, get started, get the exercise over and done with first thing in the morning. And then that would keep me going for the rest of the day. Yeah, right. Well, that's what I did for years. And I did it because I do have a diplomat body. So a diplomat body is very resilient and can do quite a few things. But when I came to menopause, that's when things started to show up for me, because our reproductive hormones are very protective. And so as they start to drop down, because we don't need as much as we come through menopause, because we're not producing eggs, we're not getting ready for pregnancy, all of that, we lose some of the protection. And what that does is, where we've been cheating on our health, on our diet, on our exercise, we can no longer do that. It now starts to show. So now we start to put that weight on that won't shift. Now we start to get aches and pains, because before the hormones covered it up. It was always there. It's either inflammation that's going on or it's insulin resistance going on. So one of those two things is happening, but it was covered up before, and now it's coming out. And because we're highly stressed, our hormones are going further out of balance. So hopefully this is making sense. So back to my story, and then I used to get up early every morning, and I used to go out and I used to do boot camp, running, and all of that with the group. When I did that, I actually thought, because I was always really slow, I could never keep up with anybody. I always felt that I was hopeless at doing this. Absolutely hopeless. I just didn't have the energy first thing in the morning to do this. I get there, I drag my butt out of bed, I drag myself to do a class, and I just didn't have the energy, even though I did it every single day. When I learned about this, I discovered, as a diplomat, ideally, I need to have a really, really slow start to the day. Ideally, I should be sleeping in. Now, I still wake when the sun comes up, but I don't do anything. I will get out of bed, and what I do is I journal, I meditate, I sit, I do nothing. I do nothing before 9 a.m. in the morning. And that is ideal for my body, because the best time for me to be exercising and to be doing all that type of, physical things is in the afternoon. And I now know that when I exercise in the afternoon, I am stronger, I am fitter, I am more balanced, and I am more coordinated, because that is right for my body and it feels right. And so this is really
amazing. And just to think, because we've almost been conditioned that you get out of bed and you should really start exercising straight away.
And if you're an activator or a connector, it's exactly what you should be doing. You should be getting out. Activators and connectors should be getting out of bed and going for a run. Connectors do it with everybody else, and activators do it on their own. But them running at 5 o'clock in the morning, that's the best thing for them, because their bodies were designed to do that. And when you start living, it's like, the same as with you guys, is when you start dressing according to your style personality, you go, oh, that feels comfortable. And
Yeah.
this is the same. When you start eating, when you start moving, when you start living according to your health type, it's basically tapping back into your intuition, because you'll go, this feels so right for me. So as a diplomat, I'm very much into touchy-feely. Activators will be doing, and everyone's different, and we've all got different personalities. And when I learned this, as I said, it kind of completely changed the way I looked at nutrition. I looked at everything, because for nearly 20 years, I had been teaching my clients what I'd been taught. Everyone needs to be eating 5 times a day. Every couple of hours, they need to eat. Now, if you're a guardian or a diplomat and you tend to put on weight and you're holding weight, particularly now as you're coming into menopause and you're holding it around your tummy, eating 5 times a day is not a good thing for you, because guardians and diplomats have longer digestive systems. And guardians, who are our bigger people, so if you think Oprah, so you know how she's always, she's struggled with her weight her entire life, but now she's who she is. She's accepted who she is, and she's a bigger person. She's a guardian. Our guardians are, we use different animals. So the bear, they're the mama bear, and they look after everybody, but they store resources. So they hold fat really easily. And there's a reason for this, because if we look at our history and we go right back through evolution, the guardian is what kept the human race running, because when there wasn't food around, the guardian could go without, so the rest of the tribe would eat. So they didn't need to eat as much, because they'd stored, like the bear, they store for the winter. And same as, back in cave person time, the guardian would store for winter, and it had all these extra resources so that the rest of the tribe could eat, because the skinnier people needed, they had nothing on resources, no body fat, no nothing, so they needed to eat what was available. And this is where we are. So guardians as a personality, they tend to be a little bit of hoarders. They just keep things. They like to keep things, because there's always you'll never go into a guardian's pantry or probably even wardrobe and find that there's not enough. There's always more than enough, because just in case someone else needs it, because it's not for them, just in case someone else needs it. So when we look at that, we also then have to work into the guardians are very much about their food. So they will overeat. Overeat, but that's not good for them. And that's why it becomes it's a slow process to get, because guardians also are very stubborn, and so are diplomats. We're very stubborn. They don't like giving up their food, because they love their food. So it's like we have to do a gradual change, because ideally a guardian, Mary Jana says, yeah, that's me. That ideally with a guardian, they should be primarily, particularly in this time of life, eating more of a plant-based diet. So it doesn't mean they don't eat meat, but there's an issue with protein, which I won't go too much into. But ideally, a guardian should be eating a more plant-based diet, and not eating any more than 3 times a day. No more than 3 times a day. Same for a diplomat. Very similar. A diplomat can eat a little bit more protein, but I personally only generally eat 2 meals a day. So I don't eat dinner. Sometimes I do, but most times I don't. So I do an intermittent fast. But if we go to the other side of the circle and we go to the activator, well, if an activator misses a meal, they become hangry. So we all know those people who, if they haven't eaten, no, actually you're on a diplomat side, but you might have, and that's another thing, is that we're not purely one health type. We do have attributes of others. But an activator, they will get really, really hangry if they don't eat every couple of hours. The crusader could basically go all day without eating if they're focused. So they will just sit down, because the crusader is very purpose driven. And if they've got a purpose, they will spend all day doing it. And you kind of have to remind them to eat. Like they will just work and work and work. They're so totally into it. A sensor, so the sensors are really thin and they're like bird-like. And they generally have lots of issues with their gut. And so they need to have their bird-like. They need to eat really small meals that are really, really well cooked. A sensor cannot survive on a raw food diet because their digestive system will not break that down. Connectors, they're pretty lucky because they can eat just about anything. They can do just about anything. But the problem with the connector is that, and we probably all know this, is they try everything and they don't stick to anything. So you think of the puppy dog, they're always bouncing around, doing this bright, shiny objects, chasing them around. And I do that a bit too, but the connector's really into it. The connector is all about people. They're very social. They have to eat with people. If they're on their own, a connector on their own can completely stuff their health up. So a connector, and this is when we very first went into all this stuff that's been happening over the last, couple of years. The connectors were the ones who, as soon as we started going into lockdowns, they were doing house parties, Zoom parties. Everybody had to be still connecting because connectors lost their connection. And it was really, and that's why they were organizing 6 million Zoom parties a week so that they could still keep in with their peeps. And their food, once again, they've got a lot more flexibility with their food, so they can have a mix of proteins, carbs and that. So, when we understand this, there's no specific diet. So an activator works better closer to a keto diet. A crusader, a sensor work better with a high carb diet because they need the carbs to keep their brain fueled. Diplomats and guardians work better closer to a vegetarian diet, but doesn't mean that they can't eat other foods. So when we understand this, it makes it easier. And then I also it can go a level deeper where we look at someone individually and say, well, what's going on with your health? What are the specific foods based on your health that you need to eat more of and what you need to eat less of? So, and that's when I go into it really deep, doing full personalized profiles and really going into deep and giving women a complete list of all these foods rated up for the best foods. And I think there's nearly 1,000 different foods on it, from the best to the worst, and how
for
often
each type, for each health type.
Each, not just health type, for each individual person. Each woman has their own list. So there'll be general ones for the health type, but then there's specific. So we need to get specific, because just because you're a guardian, for example, a guardian, they're higher risk of having thyroid disease. Diplomats sit there as well. So higher risk, and that's genetics based on the way our body's developed. So, but we could have a guardian that does have thyroid disease and a guardian that doesn't have thyroid disease. So we've got two guardians. They'll have different foods because there's certain foods that are good for nourishing the thyroid, and we'll give the guardian that's got thyroid disease, we'll actually give them more of that. But there's also foods that we avoid if you've got thyroid disease, so they will get less of that. Okay. And the guardian that doesn't have thyroid disease, there will be different, because we may just be doing a little bit of extra support, but we don't need to treat. So it makes sense. That's where it gets down to personalization, in that it comes down to the individual. So I use an app. I do use a tool for this, same as you guys use a tool, but I use a tool and that gives someone a complete list of exactly what they need to eat. And it's dynamic, because as they start to, whether it's lose weight or their symptoms start to go, or whatever disease state they have starts to resolve itself, then we switch the food. The food will change. And the food also changes depending on whether or not we're in winter or if we're in summer, whether or not you're in the southern hemisphere and the northern hemisphere. So if you actually, switch hemisphere, can't do much of that at the moment, but if you travel to the other side of the world, your food list would change, because now you're in a different season. Because all of this plays in it. It's not just food. We also look at exercise. What's the right type of exercise? So for me, running is not the best exercise. And me going out and doing boot camp 5 o'clock in the morning, where I was running and doing all this high impact work, what that did, it left me injured. Yeah. Because it doesn't mean I can't run. I can run a resilient body, but it's not the best for me, because I do have a genetic weakness in my hips, my knees, and my ankles. So when I'm doing a lot of running, then I'm more likely to damage and get injuries, which I did. And I've ended up having to have one hip replaced. And I still have issues with another hip. And that comes from starting off being a ballet dancer and then becoming a runner, neither of which are really great for my body type. And now for me, the best exercise for me is to go hiking in the bush. For diplomat, put them out in nature and they'll just, that's just like their happy place. So for me, it's strapping on a backpack and going out into the bush. Guardians are very, very similar. Guardians have got a lot of strength though. They can actually lift lots of weights. They get so much strength. They like to actually feel the weight. And that's one of the reasons why they tend to overeat, because they want their bodies to feel heavy. And if they do start to lose weight, that's when we need to make sure we get exercise in that puts the weight where they can actually carry the weight rather than have it on their bodies. But yeah, and that's when we
feeling quite grounded. I imagine that they want to feel quite grounded because they sound like they're nurturers and they want that.
Unlike the sensor, who's very, very flighty. A sensor, you don't get a sensor doing lots of heavy weights. They just don't. They don't have the muscle for it. Because they're really, really thin, but they make beautiful ballet dancers. They're strong, but they you can't put the weight on a sensor, and they can't lift weights much over their heads either. They struggle because they just don't have the muscle to do that, because they're very much a lot of skeleton, lots of skeleton in a sensor, not a lot of muscle. But an activator's got a lot of muscle, so they're very, very muscular, always muscly. So we know people who've always kind of got muscle. And even if they've got fat on, the muscle sits there. So, and they activators tend to be shorter. So they're little pocket rockets and they never stop. They go all the time. They just go, 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 go. From the minute they wake up to the minute they go to bed, they are on, and they're the highest risk takers. They don't care. They're this do first, think later. And that's
I just find this so interesting because I'm just thinking, friends, family, things like that. And you're going tick, tick, tick. And I can see we've got a couple of people. We can't see everyone's name just because if you're not logged into StreamYard, it won't show up. But, we've got a few, oh my God, I think that's me, or oh my goodness, this explains so many things. And Lisa's saying that's me, issues with gut. So people are really resonating with what you're saying here in terms of the different types and what's happening as well in terms of what we should be looking for in terms of diet, exercise, all of those sort of things. And I guess it's also about being kind to ourselves, isn't it, Angela? And just being accepting of who we are and what's going to really work for us. And not, I guess, trying to fit into these different molds in terms of you should be doing this, you should be doing that.
And hate that word.
Yeah. And I even know for myself, like, I've started to really think about what my preferences are in terms of how I eat and also how I exercise in particular. And, there's a lot of things about, you should be doing high intensity cardio and things like that, but I actually don't like it. I don't like it. I don't. And that's why I find it really difficult to do. But, make me walk forever and I'll do it. Like, I have no issue with that at all. I find that fun. I find that, relaxing.
And that's the big part of what it's my main message is to embrace where you're at. Yes, your body is changing. So this is something that women need to understand, is the body is changing because the hormones are changing, the body changes. There's absolutely nothing you can do about that. Okay, yes, you could go and take hormone replacement, but most women who take hormone replacement struggle with weight because one of the issues, particularly with estrogen, is that it puts more weight on. And so because it's a growth hormone, so you grow bigger. But your body still changes. And even if you do take the, external hormones, your body is still changing. So it's embracing who you are. And whilst I use a tool to help women, I use this tool to help women understand this. Now, Janet's on the call. Now, she's one of my clients and she's done my program. And she will tell you that what it does, it's great to have this app that tells you what to eat and everything. And, that's easy. It's all there. But once you start living this, you go, now I know why. And you start to, as you said, I get told I should be doing this type of exercise, but I want to go for a walk. This is what it's about. It's about listening to what you really want. And as women, for many, many years, we haven't done what we want. We have done what other people have told us we're supposed to do. We put ourselves behind partners, behind children. We put our needs last or very close to the, but now when we come to this stage of life, for many women, as they're kind of coming through this time of life, their kids are becoming more independent in general. Sometimes their relationship's not going the best or it's changing, but women start to kind of step into who they are, because this is the first time they get the opportunity to really do what they want. And we are so lucky because, reaching 45, 50, we're only halfway there.
Yeah.
Now you've got the opportunity to create what you want for the second half of your life, rather than what everybody else told you wanted and what you should be doing. That should word. Ugh, I don't like the should word. My husband says it to me. I go, don't say should to me. Tell me what I should do. And because now, so in the past, I would have just let that go. Now I really fight up. It's like, don't tell me what I should do. I do what's right for me. And now I understand why doing things slower in the morning is best for me. It reduces my stress. I am such a different person now than what I was a few years ago, because now I understand who I am. I accept who I am. And I am so chilled. It takes a lot to get me fired up. I rarely argue. Before, I used to argue all the time because I was stressed all the time. I was out of my head with stress. I work with, when I worked in corporate, then when I first started running my own business, and I was doing it the way everyone was telling me to do it and working so hard and all of this stuff. And now it's like, if you want an appointment with me, you don't get one before 10 a.m. in the morning. Rare to get an appointment with me before 10 a.m. in the morning because my books are just not open. Tend to close around about 2 in the afternoon. I do most of my work at night, so I run and I also work. I do very little one-on-one work. I do group work because that works best for me. I do that at night because I also know that is my best creative time. So in the past, when I would have been going to bed at this time, now 8, 9 o'clock at night, I can sit down and I can just allow this creativity to come in. And this is when I put my presentations together. I do all my work. And quite often I'm not going to bed before 11 o'clock, but then I will sleep through. But so I'm getting about 7 hours sleep, but that's all my body needs.
Yeah. Love it.
It's just when you know who you are and accept who you are and start to embrace who you are, you then become very intuitive to as what your body wants. And then menopause is just a transition. Now, there's still a small percentage of women that need additional help, and that's because they've got lots of issues going on and they've had lots of issues with their hormones in the past and probably been on the pill, or they've done IVF and all of that. That completely stuffs up hormones. But for a good 80% of women just doing this, the symptoms just disappear. We don't even think about it. They start sleeping through the night. Joint pain disappears, weight drops off. It's like, what are symptoms? We don't even talk about menopause. It's just now a transition. It's like, who I am.
Love it. Thank you so much for sharing all of that with us today.
Fine. I talked a lot. Hopefully everyone.
No, it was absolutely brilliant stuff. And I know myself and others will want to know more. And Angela, can you tell us a little bit about, because you are kicking off a 5-day free workshop next week, aren't you? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so on Sunday, I'm starting the Secret to Thriving in Menopause workshop, and I'm going into this in a lot more detail. And it'll be running Sunday. Well, it's Sunday night, Monday night, Tuesday night. We've got 3 lessons. Then it's public holiday here in Australia, so then it's catch-up replay day. So everything's being replayed, and then on Thursday we will do another lesson. But by the time the end of the workshop, not only will you understand what's going on with your hormones and the role stress is playing, you will have actually created your own personal menopause blueprint using this information. Now, it's going to be at a high level, so it's not going to go down to the detail, the exact foods that you want, that you need to eat, because that's what I do in my Embrace program. But you will know what your health type is, whether or not you, if you're a guardian, that it's more of a vegetarian diet as opposed to a crusader who's more of a carb-based diet. So you'll know that. You'll know the best type of exercise for your health type. So you'll be able to put together your own personal blueprint of what you can do going forward in menopause.
Love it. I know I'm going to be signing up for that. I'm fascinated by this stuff, not even just for myself, but just in general.
Oh, yes.
It
You
is
look at other
so
people.
interesting. So
Yeah.
interesting, especially working with our gorgeous clients as well. And that will give us more of an understanding too, in terms of, our clients' personality, health type needs, all of those sort of
Yeah.
things. Absolutely brilliant. So I know I've put the link, and I'll post the link in the comments as well, but I've put the link in the post here on Facebook and also over in YouTube. So we'll share that with you, but it kicks off on Sunday evening. So
Yep,
if you
6:30
do want
p.m.
more information, and you're really interested in this and see, your health type and what you should be looking to do in terms of nutrition and exercise and taking care of yourself, highly, highly recommend hanging out with Angela next week. So Angela, thank you so, so much. It was absolutely brilliant.
Thanks for
Really
having me.
enjoyed
And if
doing that
anyone's
with
got
you.
any questions, I am in most of Fiona's Facebook groups. So
Yeah.
underneath this video, just ask any other questions if you've got any, and I'll be around.
Perfect. Thank you so, so much. And
Thank
we'll
you.
catch you all next month for another Life and Style. And yeah, can't wait to jump in next week, Angela, and learn even more. Take care,
Can't wait
everyone.
to hear it. Bye.
Bye.